Hey there, demons. My name is Philip Ta, and I'm the current Endless Champion of the game. That means I have the highest legitimate level in IRONSTRIKE, and I am also the #1 Animus holder of the game. A little less known fact. However, yeah, I'm just really good at IRONSTRIKE. And I notice a lot of you guys are really hungry for kind of more expert mechanics. And so, welcome to my first YouTube video to just kind of give you this audio visual guide to my expert guide, which I'll link down below. Let's get started. It's gonna be a long one. All right. So, what we're covering today is first off, the damage formula, the focus and the reload mechanics. We're gonna go into kind of like also mana and the aggro system of the game, how like the AI kind of tracks who's who. Then we're going to go through what boosts are kind of more valuable in case you're struggling with gems. And last off, we're going to go with some endless mode tips and tricks, okay? So first off, why this video? So it looks like a lot of you guys, out of all the people that are doing endless rate, 20%, 24% of you guys are right here are doing like level 20, which is kind of amazing. Awesome. The median score of the people that are doing endless mode, at least like level 1 of, it seems as if you guys are getting stuck on level 11. That's because that's when the plain 3 and 4 bosses, mini bosses, all spawn at once, and it's chaos. That's a really good test bed to see your mechanics of the game and do you understand how the game works. The game might not make it all too apparent as to how the mechanics work, but that's what I'm here to show you guys today, because a lot of the content in the video shows how fun the game is, but we're going to dive deeper underneath the game, okay? And the goal here is to make you a better coach and to pass on the torch, since I'm not going to be playing this game forever, of course. So I need you to teach the next generations of Iron Strikers. Alrighty, or demons, hey. Alright, and other stats are 8% of you guys are reaching level 30, which is fantastic. We're kind of seeing level 30 seems to be your above average players, right? And your veteran or your mentor, coach players, whatever you want to call it, those people are reaching level 40 and above. That is 0.8 of the population currently. And your 0.2, those are your very high outliers. Those are your veterans, you know, those are your top tier people of the community. And, you know, if you see someone level 50 or above, you should definitely ask them some questions. Have some ready. Like, be curious, you know. We love coaching newer players, and then you pass that on, and that's really important for our community. Welcome to all the free-to-play players. Our community got really huge when that happened, and so before there just wasn't really a lot of need to make this type of content, because before it was, you don't want to hear it, but before it was sparse. So welcome, and we love having you here. Join us on the Discord. Everything will be linked in the description. All right, so let's first the foundations of the game are essentially the damage formula. So I see you guys pick certain upgrades and certain choices, and it's probably because you guys don't understand the fundamentals of how the damage formula works. So we're going to briefly go through this, and then I'll give you the example, of course. So first off, we start with the weapon-based damage. If you're a fighter, the quality of the hit, kind of like the inertia behind the weapon, like the speed behind the weapon, right? So if that number is yellow, you're actually having your base damage, right? But if you actually take the time and stand up and have like these more wide arcs and swinging motions based on your weapon, you are rewarded with the full base damage of your weapon, right? It's to encourage you with E McNeill's custom physics engine, right? To stand up and play the game. Don't just like wobble it, assuming it's like a hitbox, right? Like certain other VR games. So after that, you have your base damage. After that is the percentiles. So some percentage modifiers, or it goes in all one this one bucket, right? And so that's like your quick hit. That's like your luck arrows that give you the 100%, right? That's like vulnerability that gives you your 300% in that some percentage. It all gets added together there if it's pretty much a percentage, right? Then that outgoing damage packet it's like calculated, and then at the end it's just tacked on your flat damage. So that's like your counter strike, that's your crystallization, that's your armor piercing, right? That's your rage strike. As you can see here, quick hit and such don't talk to the flat damage modifiers. So whatever you see is what you get. So if you, for example, armor piercing gives you 200 at level 5 enhance, that's it. You're never going to see any more than that 200 in most situations, right? So needless to say, then that outgoing damage packet goes to your defender formulas, the defender side of the formula. So that outgoing damage looks at, does the enemy have sturdy on them? Because there's a commander. And likewise, it goes both ways, right? So their outgoing damage packet comes to us, and then say we have Iron Skin. It will, take 1 Iron Skin and then nullify that incoming damage to 0. And so this is mostly how the damage formula works. The fourth one is a little more niche of a calculation. That's more for like internal game calculations. And I've tried to actually really hone in on the applying to armor first and the HP after. It's kind of just focus on the first 3 steps, really. I'll go into that pro tip later. However, that's a lot, right? However, so I made this really, really cool, let's slideshow for you guys, to really demonstrate it. And mind you, this is like 37 slides. This took me a lot of work, so you better subscribe or something. Okay, so, all right. So you are a ranger, right? That's you right there. And you pick the Zukinu crossbow. Shocking. The Zukinu, oh my gosh, wow. Sorry, the word zucchini keeps on coming up in my head, and I know I really want to say it properly. So the Zukinu crossbow has 25 base damage, right? Now you choose luck arrows and explosive arrows. Now, luck arrows gives you 45%. This is a level 3 luck arrows, and this is a level 3 explosive arrows, right? So as you see here, luck arrows is the 45%, explosive arrows is the 15 flat damage. So that looks like this in the formula, mathematically, right? So 25 base damage is there, and then it gets timed by 45%, or 1 plus 0.45. That's essentially what that means. And then after that first value is calculated here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but after that, you then just tack on the 15 flat damage from your explosive arrows. So that basically gives you 45 damage per arrow. Now, you see a commander. Oh no. That commander uses sturdy on this elite mage here, right? So now, sturdy, what it does is it kind of looks at the first 30 damage of any type of hit and goes like, okay, cool, you're fine. You could stand to the side here while I check your friend's ID. And so after that 30, the remaining is 21, right? So it then says, okay, well, this 21 is a little sus. Let me reduce it by 80%. And that's what Sturdy's doing. So that leaves you with 4, right? 80% of 21 is 4. Then it goes, like, it brings your friend back over, which is the 30. And then it goes like, okay, you guys can come in now. So the 30 is added to the 4 that's remaining. So now your arrows are doing 34 per arrow, right? That is okay. That's not the worst reduction, right? However, your caster friend says like, nah, I got you, fam. Let me use vulnerability on the elite mage that you're attacking, right? And so that puts the 150% vulnerability that at the level they're casting, right? That puts it, as you see the arrow here, that puts it in the some percentage modifier bucket, or I like to say, right? And so you're now adding the 45 to the 150, And that looks like that mathematically, which is great. So now your arrows are turning to 89 damage per arrow, right? Because there's vulnerability on it. However, again, the enemy has 30. The first 30 is like, okay, cool, you're fine, right? It passes through. Well, like stand to the side here while I check out your friend. The remaining is 59 damage. And so the 59 damage is the one that gets reduced by sturdy by 80%, right? And so you're left with 11.8. So that's not right. That's not as good, right? And then the 30 comes back, and then you're both able to like go in. So that is 41.8 per arrow. And just for simplicity, we'll round up. So that's 42 damage per arrow. So you were doing originally 89 damage per arrow, right? And then it just like goes all the way down to 42 damage an arrow, and that's massive. And that's with vulnerability. You guys should be doing way more than that. Okay, so you have the 51 damage per arrow because you go like, okay, well, so let me go back a little. You're shooting the elite mage for 42 damage an arrow, and you're like, man, this is taking so long. Then you realize the commander can't use sturdy on itself, right? So you decide to go back to the commander, and only the commander, sorry, you're focusing now on the commander, and you're shooting your Zuguru crossbow, and you're now seeing your original 51 damage per arrow. So as you can see here, it's all of like your internal skill modifiers, because remember, vulnerability is on that elite mage, right? And so you go to the commander and you're doing your original 51 damage per arrow, because that would be more effective. It's more efficient to defeat the commander before you can defeat anything with sturdy on it, and that's kind of like by design. So again, what we just saw here was that we started with your weapon base damage, then we went through like here, right? And then we went through attack, skill, statuses. So that's your percentages right here. And then there's your flat, right? And then the number 3 part of the step, which is the applying the like defender skill and statuses, was the sturdy part, right? So that's pretty much what's happening in real time with every single damage packet that's happening. And I just want you guys to be aware of how important base damage is, and how important things like vulnerability, or just like that way you can, because when you read things, it's not as clear as to what flat damage is, right? Or because it doesn't specify it in the game, you kind of have to just work it out yourself. But I need you guys to lock in here, because I'm going to these public lobbies and I'm with you guys, right? So I need you guys to like I'm good at the game, but I'm not like carry 4 people good, because at the end of the day, endless mode it's more of an exercise as a team than it is of any single individual, since we all have to create something greater than the sum of our parts in endless mode. So take this information, please share it with other people. Additionally, let's go back to our original example, right? So you defeated all the enemies, and you decide to put 1 skill point into burst fire. And so burst fire, what it does is, you read here, fire 2 arrows per shot, and base damage of each arrow is reduced by 30%. Now, that's here in the formula, right? And basically, that 25 becomes 17.5. Now, we times it again by your luck arrows 45%, and then whatever number we get, we just tack on that 15 from flat damage. That equals 40 damage per arrow, right? So the caveat here is that we're seeing, sure, you went from 51 per arrow to 40, but the caveat here is that burst fire turns every arrow into 2 arrows. So you're basically doing like 40-40. True, I'm not going to get into the nuances of like what if like an arrow misses and all that stuff, but basically you're doing like an overall like 80% per arrow, right, quote unquote. And that's great, and that's kind of how burst fire by design is working. It's you're reducing by 30% or such, whatever level you have, but overall your DPS is increased. Now remember that it went from 25 base damage to 17.5. So remember, like if we started with something smaller, like the assassin's crossbows, handbows, it would be reducing 30% off of your 10 base damage. So that's 7. And so I just want to really harp onto this base damage aspect, right? Where Like, I get that you guys are shooting more arrows, right? But that doesn't mean you're doing more damage. Base damage is so crucial because it's the beginning of your damage step, right? So please don't ignore that. And also, please don't put such a big emphasis on flat damage, because flat damage, again, is just tacked in on there. Where we're going to go after the hit and run bug has been nerfed. The meta is still kind of up in the air about that part, but that's a different video. That's what I'll do a deep dive on like each class after this one. But the next video is going to be how to be a good teammate, because these are more like valuable skills as a community. So again, you see this here. I could have just literally just blurted all this out, and we were like, initial attack power, we've equipped your tier 3 Zugunu crossbow, doing 20. And you see how boring that is? So I made this entire slide deck just for you guys. 37 slides. I hope that makes way more sense now, how the damage formula works. Okay, moving on. Cool. So let's go into fighters. How does focus work? So focus is, as you can see here, it's the blue bar under the health bar. And this focus bar is out of 100%. It's out of 100, right? Just flat 100. So your focus is your blue bar, and so your slow weapons, that's going to be like your, on the wiki here I just made. So we see here your slow weapons are kind of like your Arbiter's Warhammer. That's like your Fireweave Longsword. Basically things with like higher base damage typically. Every time you heavy block, you're gonna get 7.5 out of this blue bar, right? Additionally, if you're just standing, it's roughly like 3-4 meters to an enemy. That's like melee range. You're just going to be passively getting this 7.5. And that's kind of how focus works in the game, based on your weapon, IRONSTRIKE regeneration speed, right? Now, medium weapons, that's like your prismatic club. That's like the new weapon, Blades of Kethra. That's like your Archangel broadsword. They're very like 9.35 focus a second is, pretty middle of the road. It's not that different, honestly, from fast weapons. Now, fast weapons, that's like your scimitars of Darman. That's your celestial Guandao. And the only that's your staff of Enseer. And usually for the trade-off of a fast IRONSTRIKE weapon is a lower base damage. So you're basically going to be doing kind of twice the amount of work to get to the same DPS levels as maybe a slower or medium weapon would. But that's by design and by preference of choice, right? They're all viable. It really just is, except for like the Skywing Halberd. I don't know what's going on with that one. But and the only very fast weapon we have in the game is the rapier. As you see here, it's the only one with the very fast IRONSTRIKE regen speed. My theory is because that's E's like favorite melee weapon in the game, but I don't really know. So, but yeah, 30 focus a second, which is massive, honestly. Like you're just standing next to someone for like 3.5 seconds and you have an IRONSTRIKE. The caveat is that it only gives you one IRONSTRIKE per bar filled. And then every time you're heavy blocking, you're getting 30 focus. And if you have like riposte or something, that's crazy. Very well designed weapon too, might I add. Just like weight wise. However, let's go into heavy blocking, right? So what is considered a heavy block exactly? And heavy blocks are, heavy blocks do accelerate your focus gain, right? Because if you kind of just have the weapon in front of you and you're just letting the weapon just like, you'll hear like this very light metal clink. And so when you hear that, that's your sign that you're getting not your, let's just, for example, use the very fast because that's an easier number. So you're just holding it in front of you, and now realistically, you're going to have the 9.35, right? So let me just, do this since we're here. We're in the weeds in it, okay? So we're committed. We are all in. So that's going to be 4.675, right? So because you're just holding your weapon out, you're not gaining focus as fast as you could have, because you're only gaining 4.675 with holding your weapon out. But if you just put like a little bit of inertia in there, a little bit of speedy speed based on your weapon. Every weapon is different, of course. You're gonna be getting your 9.35 every time you heavy block. And additionally, while you're just standing there, you're getting iron strikes for days. So if you're wondering why your iron strike speed is just so you're just not getting any iron strikes, it's probably because you're not heavy blocking. And that really does require putting some, momentum behind your weapon, standing up, really engaging with the mechanics of the game. So I really do encourage you guys, for all the people who are just kind of struggling playing fighter, to do this as a test though. What you do is you go into like normal runs, and Challenges of Ass has a no mercy at the bottom. Basically, you turn that on, and all your blocks now, like light blocks don't cut it. You have to heavy block each time. And that is a really good way to kind of feel what a heavy block is and why arcing, like moving your body, is very pivotal to the game. You'll become a better fighter, and your team will thank you for it. Trust me. And so what else counts as a heavy block, right? So for pole arms, blocks between hands counts as heavy blocks. That's a very unique trait of pole arms, right? So you have like pole arms such as what's a really good example would be it would be like the Titan's Great Axe, right? Now the Titan's Great Axe is a very long pole. It's a very long pole arm weapon, more pole than arm, and so the advantage of a pole arm is that you are able to let the weapon kind of come to you and react to it versus being a little more proactive in hitting their weapon, right? You can kind of be a little more defensive into it, but then you still gotta put that, that like momentum into the pole arm. However, yes, that will always count as a heavy block. And for dual weapons, we only have two: the new Blades of Kethra and the Scimitars of Darman for your tier 3s. And all you have to do for that one is kind of put them in like this scissor kind of pattern, right? You just kind of cross them like that. And basically that X is what determines like your heavy block zone. But you still have to kind of let the weapon fall into it and hit it, right? With E McNeill's custom physics engine, it's really, really hard to cheese the game, like physics-wise, right? So just treat it like it's a sport. Put one foot in front of the other, keep your stance wide, keep your body lowered, and really go for it. And I don't know about you, but I stay so fit playing this game. Oh, by the way, thanks E McNeill for saving me like, oh my gosh, it's been like 2 years. A 2-year gym membership so far. Thank you. You guys should buy gems, by the way. Support him. He's a really lovely guy. All right. So next up, heavy blocking tips. Sometimes I notice you guys are kind of like backing away from the enemy, and it doesn't really help you with blocking at all. You're just kind of panicking the whole time. And then also your job as a fighter, part of the role is to like stand still a little bit, right? So people can land their shots, people can land their spells. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to use Comet Fall and like the fighter is constantly moving, or like Supernova, and it misses, and stay still. And so to help you with this, so if you look at a basketball, right? Basketball hoop, you notice that there's this kind of red square, rectangle always like above it, typically. And that's to tell you where to aim, where to aim the ball. And so how we can kind of use this to our advantage is, in martial arts at least, instead of like tunnel visioning on someone's weapon or the strike incoming, you imagine this like red box around the enemy, right? So here's an example of, I'm a little off-centered from this elite mage here to my left in this example. And so my box is not really covering the full breadth of both of them, right? So as you see, I'm going to move a little to my left. And that allows me to be a little more centered. And what you do is that because you're focusing your eyes on the whole box, right? That way you just kind of let your body naturally react to the incoming weapons. And you don't get tunnel vision additionally, right? Because and this bigger field of vision helps you because when people are getting attacked and they're like literally right next to you and you don't see them, it's because you're tunnel visioning. So what you want to do is imagine this like box around them. You're not gonna, once you kind of master that, you don't have to do it every time. But until you get the fundamentals down, here's a good example of it where I give up like attacking the elite mage to my left because he has 30, right? So I then move my box more towards the commander. So now you see this, right? This is like a centered box. And because of that, his weapon here, I'm not even like staring at his weapon. I don't even know the hammer's incoming. I don't know where his windup is, but I'm still able to instinctively block, right? Because you're just using your peripherals and then just trusting that your body will block for you. And then so after the commander dies, then I move to my left and I shape my box around the elite mage. And this gives me a wider field of vision and, I highly recommend not getting hit by their weapons. It's a pretty useful skill. Plus, heavy blocking is just a useful mechanic for focus, right? Because the more focus you have, the more damage you're doing. All right, next. Reload speed. All right, 26 minutes. All right, so reload speed. This one's easy. So for rangers, your reload speed formula is calculated with you get all of your like reload rate bonuses and reductions, and you just add them together. So for example, burst fire, level 3 and onwards, it reduces your reload speed by 30%, right? And normal, we'll just use normal rapid fire 5 here, and that gives you 60% reload speed reduction. Oh wait, it decreases your reload speed, right? So you just add all those like percentage numbers up, all the negatives, all the positives, just boop, and then you have 30%. So that reload rate bonus, we have a positive net of 30%, right, from rapid fire. And now you apply that to your weapon's base reload speed. So for example, the Zukuru crossbow again, that has a reload speed of 1 arrow per second, right? So 30% of 1 arrow a second is 1.3. And so now we have our 1.3 arrows that we're getting per second. So what does this mean? Now we, at the end of the reload speed formula, we will apply, usually slippery. You should probably be getting slippery, by the way, which gives you 30%. So now we increase that 1.3 by another 30%, and that will be 1.69. So at the end of all this, you're now getting 1.69 arrows a second. And that's how the reload speed formula works. Very similar to the mana for regeneration formula we're about to go into. The reason why slippery is at the end of the reload formula is much like concentration, where just in general, to kind of get you into the mindset of playing as your class, like a ranger or a mage, where the kind of, RPG wise, they're more known for being in the back line. And they're not like moving around a lot. They're very like park and bark. And because of that, if you use a movement input with your joystick, that's how the game knows that you're moving. And thus it will have your overall reload speed or your mana regeneration, right? By 50%. Now what Slippery is doing here, it's giving you back that, it goes from like 50 to like 75, or basically it's giving you back, so then when you do move, you're not incurring that penalty anymore. And also, by the way, speaking of Slippery, since version 150 of the game, you could read the changelogs in the Discord, of course, also linked in the description. You guys don't have to move anymore, by the way. The tooltip didn't change, of course, but for Slippery, you don't actually have to move to get the reload speed bonus. Same for concentration. So that's the reload speed formula in a nutshell. You just add them all together, your pluses and minuses. You apply it to the weapon's base. Apply Slippery if you have it. If not, reduce it by 50% if you are moving. And that's it. All right. way less way less than the damage formula, right, guys? No need for a second session. Anyway, so the mana regeneration formula, by the way, is very similar, except you're just giving since there's nothing in the game that reduces your percentage bonuses as a skill, right? For mana. You just all you do is you add up like your energy leech, your clarity, maybe like your crystal focus. You just add up all those percentages and then you apply it to your base 5 mana regeneration a second, right? And then you have challenges, which we could avoid that. We could just not talk about that part. But after that, that final number is multiplied by 50% if you're moving, right? Because it's going to have it. Since moving, it's like punishing you for not playing thematically. Unless you have concentration. And concentration will still give you that 30% off whatever number at the end. So basically, all skills are just additive to that weighs against the 5 mana regeneration a second. Except for concentration, which gets applied to the end of the mana formula. And that's it, really. That one's a little more straightforward. Oh, by the way, I'll do a deeper dive for the caster guide. I'll go like fighter, ranger, caster, for like an endless mode expert guide. However, to get around 30 to 40 mana a second, you basically get concentration, energy leech, and your choice of crystal focus or mana reserve. And that will get you, like, if like 30 to 40 mana a second is like not enough for you, then you're probably doing something else wrong. That's like a little note there for mana in endless mode. So quickly how the enemy aggro system works, because in short, if a fighter is like locked in with somebody and you see the enemy so very patiently waiting behind the enemy, like in a Disney park line or at Costco, right? Very patiently waiting their turn. Do not hit the enemy behind them. That's just patiently waiting. They're not doing anything. They're not a problem. Focus on the one that is already engaged in melee combat, because to summarize what E McNeill, how he explained it, was this is the only part I actually will just read because it's a little confusing. Bots rank targets using weighted factors such as proximity, current engagement status, melee combat involvement, and whether other bots are targeting them. Different bot types, melee ranged healer, apply different weights. The system assigns targets to maximize smart choices without frequent switching. So again, basically, it's very proximity heavy. Every enemy has their own preferences as to how they want to assign their aggro. Imagine all of us having a score. The enemies will typically want to kind of even out that score. It's a very liberal score, right? It's a very fair score. However, if you notice they're not engaging you for whatever reason, just leave them alone. Only attack things the fighter is actually actively attacking. There's no your 2 arrows. Sorry, that I don't want to go on a tangent, but yeah, just attack the things the fighters are attacking. That's just also good action economy that we're gonna go into, like in the next video on how to be a good teammate. By the way. Okay. Anyways, wrapping up soon. We have the kind of your best tiers for your for people who are kind of struggling with gems. You should definitely you should just straight up buy the unlimited gems, by the way. And also the $20 gems, right? $20 gets you so many gems. I don't even know what you do with all those gems. Just buy gems, guys, please. Support the game. The server costs are just, yes, please support the game. So anyways, if you are struggling with it, what boosts are actually worth it, right? So you have your S tier boosts, which are ascending for sure. Ascending, like since we just finally talked about the damage formula, that 300% of ascending goes in that some percentage. So that's like where your quick hit was, that's where your vulnerability was. That is an amazing boost. Like just 5 minutes, and each, like when you get to like the higher endless mode rounds, encounters, your encounters are lasting more than 5 minutes. So that's just 300 free damage, 300% free damage. And additionally, this 300% goes on just gosh darn everything. So even your, it's called status effect based damage. That's like your storm arrows. That's like your poison arrows. Those ticks count as like your status effect based damage. And that's kind of a little more, it's kind of like its own thing, right? However, it's really hard to influence that type of stuff, especially as a ranger, unless they have like, vulnerability on them or something like that. Ascending works on them though, which is amazing. Just get ascending. If you're struggling, just pick ascending. Other S tier things are advanced, which is your first skill is guaranteed to be enhanced. If you use a reroll on this advanced like selection, your very first skill, it'll still carry over. So if you reroll, you'll still see all of them enhanced. The only exception is like if you're a caster, your starting magic can't be enhanced, but it'll still be in the list, which is a little unfortunate. And then the A tier one would be flexible because just having 4 options compared to 3 options is so fundamental. Like just from on like an RNG standpoint, right? Because if you just mix like advanced with flexible, you are like, I think we calculated, you're like 93% sure to get your build, right? Now, will they all be enhanced? No, because that's the 3% to have all enhanced on everything, right? Don't go for like your all enhanced builds, guys. Please stop leaving the lobbies just because you're not happy with like getting all enhanced things. Please. Anyways, basically, if you fall into the 7% that are not getting their builds, you're fundamentally doing using your rerolls too greedy. You're being too greedy with your rerolls. And what I mean when I say that is you should use your rerolls to only get the things you need, not the things you want. And knowing what is actually good enhanced or not. Like, not all that glitters is gold, guys. Just because something's enhanced doesn't make it inherently better. For example, enhanced hit and run only changes the timer from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, but it doesn't fundamentally change the damage that maxes at 750%. So when I go through my guide videos, I'll definitely go through what is worth enhancing. But off the top of my head, the only things that are really worth enhancing for fighters, for example, it used to be stagger, vengeance if you have a slow weapon, and then like maybe combo because it goes from 600% to 750%, right? Which is a really big modifier. But that's like it. That's like not really that crazy. But enhanced vengeance is great because it goes from 1 second to 0 seconds, and that's very amazing for just constantly triggering it. Off the top of my head, for rangers, you guys have it the worst, where you really do need a little more infusions to make your builds work that are enhanced, because you ideally want to use your advanced on enhanced explosive. Enhanced Lightfoot is kind of like an A, B tier type of enhancement. And then you want your third infusion, such as Ice, Shadow, Luck, to be enhanced too, because just something that doesn't reduce your reload speed. And then Burst Fire, you don't need that enhanced, because that's just like 5% difference and like 1 extra arrow. You're fine. Again, I'm going to do deep dive on each of them, and then in each guide. However, know that it really isn't that important to have, to constantly be leaving the lobby. Anyways, and then for caster, all you really need is like enhance wind, and then like, I don't know, enhance iron if you really, really want. But like, please, please, please use your rerolls to get what you need and not what you want. Please. Having a normal skill is A-okay. A lot of the times. Rant over. Anyways, so wrapping up again is the enemy mode scaling here. Endless mode scaling. We're talking about a lot of this because if you know these fundamentals, you're gonna have to just go through so many. I made this little calculator It's an okay calculator. But as we see here, the enemies get, so this is like the base, like kind of like the base of the enemies, right? So base stats. So you have their base HP is like, champion's 1500. He's got 300 armor because armor is always 2 times the amount of HP. They're doing like this much. So, but when you get to like, I don't know, endless, let's just say 20, right? They have like 27,000 like health resource altogether. And so if you don't know your like basic mechanics of how your class works, how the damage formula works, getting this like doing that much damage is like so time consuming, and you're just hoping your team knows how to do damage. And basically it's like if you notice yourself your damage is scaling off real hard, it's because you just don't have the proper understanding of the mechanics, and that's what what we just talked about is really for. And to go into more detail for the endless mode mechanics though, they exponentially scale, and what that means is each encounter, it's taking the last values that they've calculated and using that as the new base. So for example, when you start on endless like encounter 0 and you're trying to clear your first beacon, the enemies just have like their normal like base stats here, right? And then you finish that beacon, and then next encounter they have 15% more damage, 10% more health, 3% more movement speed, 10% slow stun resistance. That's more of a linear 10%, like more additive. And you have 1% projectile seeking, and that's a linear addition, I believe, as well, which caps at 50%. So, and just for like reference, luck arrows level 1 is a 30% seeking rate. So by like endless 30, they're seeking you, kind of like a luck arrow 1. If you're wondering why you can't dodge the projectiles as a ranger, it's because they're increasing by 1% each encounter. Some crucial like thresholds to note is that like a tier 4 champion, that's like these guys, by the way. That is these guys, but they have green. They look green. And so what's going on there is every green enemy is a tier 4 enemy. And that's a champion, that's a soldier, that's a scout, by the way. So tier 4 enemies, yeah. They basically, what I'm saying is that these guys here, they one-shot you at around endless encounter 15. They do like the 1500. So if you notice yourself kind of getting defeated around like level 10, level 15, this is kind of why. And the projectiles one-shot you around encounter 25-ish. If you're wondering why you're, kind of hitting that as a wall. Yeah. And I think that covers that part. Yeah. I'll link the calculator as well in the video. All right. So just to wrap it up, again, we're going through this because 24% of you guys are reaching level 20 out of all the people that try endless mode. 8% of you guys are getting to 30. Basically, these are really these numbers shouldn't be this low, and so I hope some of this helps you guys increase these levels. If you guys are getting stuck around endless 11, practice the mechanics we're talking about today. And I recently made a wiki like 2 hours before I went to work. Feel free to go to the IRONSTRIKE wiki. It's just a quick fandom thing. It was a lot of copy paste dumping of just like this spreadsheet here that's on the Discord. Feel free to join the Discord as well. It's very helpful. You get news, you get like the change logs here. You can always ask us questions. We have a lot of discussions. You can see the endless records of like kind of just who's doing who has all the records and what's our highest recorded records. We have really cool community and welcome. Other than that, I hope this satiates some of you young, scrappy, hungry kids that are just I'm meeting these public lobbies, and you guys are so enthusiastic about the game that I'm getting a lot of interviews about them essentially while I play, and that's great. That's fantastic. But as you can see, this is like I'm running 45 minutes, and like that's a lot to cover. And I'm trying to survive. So, you could always refer to this. I have timestamps. You can always just go back to the section you want. I'll be breaking this video up into little parts so people can just kind of copy paste, share like certain parts with their friends that they only need to learn. Other than that, next is how to be a good teammate. That's equally as important as this game, as all these mechanics, and yeah.